Thank you for joining us for Farm Fresh Food Boxes. This is session one of a three-part short course. Can you move to the next slide, Hans? Thank you. We can move right on to the next slide, which I'm just going to take one moment to tell you a little bit about some logistics. If you wouldn't mind keeping your microphone on mute until we get to designated prompts with questions where we're looking for more participation and feedback. We are recording this for future distribution, and we're going to send you an email at the end of this webinar that will tell you how to access a shared Google Drive specifically for the short course. Also, this recording will be on our website. We're looking for, this is an interactive course about how to run farm fresh food boxes. So while we've got some presenting, especially at the beginning, we are looking for feedback throughout. So at any time, feel free to open up your chat box, type in questions. If it's not a good time to answer it then, we'll save your questions. And as soon as we can get to them, we will. If you haven't already gotten a copy of the toolkit, please take a moment now to write your email into the chat box feature, and we will make a point to send you the link for the toolkit. That's about it for general logistics. Would you be willing to move to the next slide? I want to introduce myself. I'm Lisa Chase with the University of Vermont Extension and the Vermont Tourism Research Center. And I've been working on this project for about 3 years now with an incredible project team from around the country. We're all on this call today, including Jane Kolodinsky from UVM, Marilyn Sittiger from the Evergreen State University, Julia Van Solen Kim from California, Diane Smith from Washington State, and Lauren Greco, who's been a graduate student at UVM. Presenting today, I'm starting us off. I have the fun job of doing the logistics, but then I'll start us off, and also part of my job is going to be to keep Hans on track in terms of time. So feel free to send me time cues to Hans any point.
Good luck.
And so we're going to make sure we move along, have time for your questions and your interaction. Hans is going to be presenting along with Wei Wei Wang. Do you two want to introduce yourselves for a moment now?
Sure, I'll go first. I'm an extension local food specialist, produce safety specialist for the University of Vermont. I've been a teacher most of my life, but in 2010 switched over, and I'm still teaching for UVM some, and doing produce safety stuff with about 300 farms in Vermont through the Vegetable and Berry Growers Association. And I think some people on this call know me. I know that they do, so not all of you, but look forward to spending some time with you today and over the next few weeks to help you look into and dive into this concept of expanding your local markets.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wei Wei Wang. I am a research specialist at the Center for Rural Studies at the University of Vermont, and I'm the project manager on this project. I have done a lot of different things since before, and I have been with the center for about 5 years working on various USDA projects, and I'm so excited that you're here. So thank you so much for joining us.
Now that you know a little bit about us, can you go back to that slide? Yeah, now that you know a little bit about us, we want to check in and find out more about you. We appreciate everyone who took the time to fill out the survey and give us some information. And right now we've got a couple of flash polls so we can see who's joining us, and also so all of you can see who else is here. Wei Wei's going to set up the first flash poll now. So you see a poll in front of you that says participant type. Click on whichever button best describes you, and then go ahead and submit it. And sorry, but you can only click on one button even if you do wear multiple hats. Just pick the one that best describes you. And when Wei Wei's ready, she'll show us the results.
And we're doing we're doing this because too many people on the call to really effectively go through it, nor would we want to interrupt each other.
So it looks like we're a pretty good mix of farmers and extension and some other types of service providers and other folks. We did have a couple real retailers, shop owners who are potentially joining us. They've signed up and may be joining us at some other point. Now we've got another question for you, and I want to clarify that the question we're asking now is, and wait, you can show the poll at any point. The question we're asking you is at this time, meaning, you know, we know we're going to share a whole lot more information with you about the farm fresh food box model. And, you know, there's a lot more learning to happen and communicating to happen. But at this time, you know, where you are in, you know, in your life and with your plans, are you intending or seriously considering taking action somewhat related or based on the farm fresh food box model this season? And feel free to click one of those responses and submit your answer, and we'll see where people are. And while Weiwei is compiling the results, I want to mention that this course is meant as a hands-on course. So whether you're thinking about starting a food box model this season or in some other season in the future, there are going to be exercises. And if you're really planning to do it this season, you know, we'll guide you through those exercises and you can do them for real. However, if you're thinking of just exploring further and looking into it for the future, that's fine. You know, we ask that you try to make the exercises as real as possible, but, you know, it's fine to make things up as you go, or, you know, partner with people who you may be considering but not so serious about. Were you able to get the results for, there we go.
And I want to add to that too. The reason we're putting this up now is that you know, I want to encourage people who are sort of really getting into this and actually have something to chew on, places, people to really take an active role in asking questions, and you know, we can workshop some stuff and get feedback on it. Feel free to reach out to any of the extension specialists in the state you're in, Vermont, Washington, or California. You'll get the info at the end. And this is, we're serious about helping you do whatever needs to happen and what you would like to try.
That's a great point. So while we've got this three-part course, we're also going to share our personal contact information with you in case you need more follow-up. So it looked like about 2/3 are kind of on the fence, maybe, depends how things go. We've got about 30% who are pretty serious, and then some other people who are checking it out. Can we have the next slide? All right. So what we're going to cover today is, we've already done the who's here and the logistics. And then we're going to spend a little time, for those of you who were on the webinar a few months ago, some of it will sound a little familiar, but if you're like me, you don't remember that much about a webinar that was 3 months ago or 2 months ago. So it'll be a good refresher in terms of, you know, what is Farm Fresh Food Boxes? How does it work? Why should I do it? And why should I not do it? And then we get into the more action-oriented part of this program, where we have some exercises and start to work through some of the first steps in making this Farm Fresh Food Box model work for you in your area with partners that make sense for you. And then, not meaning to scare you, but we do have a homework assignment at the end, because we want to come to our next session ready to get moving for the next step. And now I'm going to hand it over to Hans. But first, I want to go to the slide with questions and just check in. Take a moment to look at the chat box, and I don't see any questions. Again, feel free to raise your hand at any time if you have questions, or type into the chat box whenever. We'll keep track of things. And I think in the meantime, we're ready to move on, and I'll turn it over to Hans.
Great, thank you. So yeah, I mean, this, if you were at the webinar, there's actually a very little bit of overlap. We're going to really jump in and look at a lot of the models that were tried, some things that worked, some things that didn't work. You'll really get a sense of it I think, in a way that is fairly real, at least from my perspective, having been in it. So that's coming and right now, and we will, you know, it's, if you want to, just one thing, F3B or farm fresh food box, that's a name, right? And we had to call this something, this project that we were doing, and we have a logo and all that kind of stuff. Don't let that kind of box you in, that concept here. This is lighting you. The most important thing you've done is actually show up on this call thinking about expanding retail markets. How do local food reach people that don't like local food? They want to eat fresh and local, but they don't join CSAs, etc. So, you know, you've made the time to think about that, and whatever happens in here, if you use little bits of this or you use the whole thing, it's going to help. And I just want to say that first. And if you were on the last call, if you want to blame someone for why you're here, you can blame butternut squash. And the reason is that in the season of 2012 in Vermont, it was a really good squash growing year. And one of the best squash farmers in Vermont, Howie Prizak, had a problem. And that was that, first of all, he has a lot of infrastructure and a lot of markets. He wasn't doing that great. And he had a glut of squash. And the market was saturated and he couldn't sell it. And I was working with him. We had a truck on the road. We were delivering vegetables to farms and, schools and hospitals. And we pitched this idea around, and, we realized farmers are, consumers are having problems. Like, there's a lot of squash, but they can't get it at the general store in the local town, etc. So we came up with this idea of, we've got this truck that's already moving 40 miles around here. Let's just do this thing. We'll just try it once. And he sold a lot of squash at a decent price. I advertised it on our network, and he sold about 60 boxes, $3,000, and moved all that squash. And that kind of got us thinking. And Jane, the project coordinator, we were talking a few years back, and we started thinking about this idea. So that's what ended us up here, squash. A lot of other people are thinking about this idea too, obviously. A lot of barriers to local markets, right? We had a huge boom of local with CSAs, farmers markets, farm stands, and it really has plateaued, at least in Vermont and California, probably Washington. I'm not totally sure about there, but nationally we've had a plateau. And a lot of young farmers coming in are having a hard time. And the story is really, we know it, right? This is not like scientific, but these are the headlines. Huge farms are undercutting prices. Oops, that typo there. Big retail smashing small local, convenience food smashing scratch cooking, and consumers, they're a little bit, they know something's wrong. A lot of people want fresh local food, but they have a hard time getting it. So, who are those people that aren't buying CSA boxes? They're not going to farm fresh. They're not going to farmers market so much, but they kind of really would like to buy from the farmer down the road. And that's really what we tried to address. We tried to really crack into that. Is there ways we could access those people? And that's really where the farm fresh food box model is coming from. And I think everyone on this call, right, the CSA has been around since the early 70s or mid 70s. And the concept, right, of paying up front, the farmer has ultimate, they know what they're packing. They're going to just give the consumer what they want, what they've grown. And that idea of a box is expanding with the CSAs plateauing. The concept is becoming more and more flexible, and really what I gotta get rid of this thing here. That's better. What the farm fresh food box does is it stretches this concept. How can we reach new, not just shift customers? We don't want to get a customer who is going to buy a CSA box and have them buy a farm fresh food box at a local convenience store. No, we're like, how do you actually reach different customers that are on the cusp? So the concept here is really to create synergy and use what's existing. The concept we already have in our neighborhoods and communities, we potentially have everything we need in place. We just don't have the cultural acceptance of it. So retailers are already interacting with their consumers, and the concept, right, is that this is a general store or a convenience store that doesn't have a produce section. As far as a farmer down the road, they connect, and there's some win-wins going on about the retailer actually bringing this farm fresh food to consumers who can't get it normally. The grocery store might be far away, and that means that we start making these connections. The consumers have to go through into the retailers to pick up. They learn about farm fresh food box at a store. The drop point for it would be at the store. They might pick up some other stuff at the same time, and then they've made a connection, the farmers with the consumers, etc. So we're cultivating healthier and deeper connections in the community. So again, just to summarize, the nuts and bolts is that there's basically a retail box. It's more of a one-off. There might be, you could get a discount for committing to a bunch of boxes over time. There could be lots of different models, but it's not quite like a CSA in the sense of paying upfront for big outlay for something over the season. And the retailers are really just providing a drop-off and pickup. Really of some food from farm down the road. And keep in mind, this could go lots of different directions. So if you're thinking, what if it was? It could be a CA drop. It could just be another CSA drop point. That would be the minimal stretching of a CSA concept. Or it could go all the way, and the retailer is really promoting and selling the box, and there's more of a partnership, tight partnership. Okay, so building community connection, right? Customers, like we said, are really connect with the farm in a way, and they're seeing what the farm has. They are getting convenience of fresh and local, and they build some loyalty to whatever the store is on their way to work or whatnot. So details again, just in a brief look. This first bullet here is really, we've learned from experience over and over again that the match is super important. The synergy, this relationship is going to make or break trying a food box. And of course, there are other barriers, but it's really important to establish a match. And that's really our focus today, is kind of to how you even prepare for and decide to figure out who you might partner with. So, and then after that, it's really kind of just finding the win-wins and solving logistical problems and trying this out, right? Targets, who's the customer, who's going to come in here, what's the box size, price, type, payment options, what kind of a marketing plan could work? How are you going to recruit people? Or should we have some kind of commitment, box ordering, payment, fulfillment, all that stuff? And then you launch it and really adjust on the fly. And let's just spend a little time quick cruising through some photos so you get a real sense of what this is like. So this is just pictures of farms and stores and boxes of that over the last 2 years. Really tried this out. Route 5 Farm in Vermont, selling their box that looked about like this at a feed store right down the road, and a local feed store, not even a convenience store. This is High Meadow Farm. They have some fun marketing stuff going on, and sold in the Putney General Store. This is Eric from Well-Fed Farms in Washington, and he was packing in WD Foods. Down the road, there's Ann from Blue Heron Farm in Washington State, and at the 5B's Bakery. Live Power in California. There's their box, and they actually sold to 3 retail stores. So they were sort of the live power powerhouse in terms of drops and deliveries. And I like the liquor store too. That's a good combination. Laura at Full Plate Farm in Vermont, and she and Matt sold at this little rinky-dink neighborhood store in Brattleboro. And there's Nora. I taught her in high school, believe it or not. And she has a farm now in Vermont, and she was selling at Danenwitt's, a really high traffic farm in Norwich, Vermont. There we have Jericho Settlers Farm, and their look of their boxes. And they were selling at Jolly, a convenience store gas station. And look at that. Have you ever seen an advertisement like that on top of a fuel pump? And they had a gift card. So they had some marketing power behind this. It was quite cool project. And here's Joey. I don't know if Joey's on the call today, but she was going to drop in, and she's up in northern Vermont, selling to a very rural general store that was perhaps a little too far away from her, but really in need of some fresh produce. And there's the store owner of that store. So let's just take a minute. Actually, any questions? Or I was going to put a question slide in here. I forgot. I want to pause for a second. If anyone had any questions just specifically about what they just saw, those flashes. We'll get into models and stuff, but I just wanted to give a sense. I don't know, Lisa, if you can keep an eye on that. I'll just pause for a second.
Yes, nothing in the chat right now. So if anyone has questions or comments or ideas, type them in anytime, and we'll keep moving until then. Okay.
And do you see Joey on the list? I don't know if she may have been calling in too on a phone.
Yeah, I don't see Joey's name listed. It's possible she's on a phone. So Joey, if you're around, type into the chat or raise your hand, and we'll make sure we unmute you so you can share your experiences.
Okay, so here's just sort of some live, some video and a little bit of talking from some farms in this group. Let's start here.
At the Jolly in Jericho, a steady stream of customers stop for gas and other items.
It used to be we bought it and transformed it into one of our Jollies, and it's been a very successful store. A lot of local, and we get a lot of tourists heading to the mountains.
Signs here point customers to an item that might seem out of place at a convenience store.
We have the sign up front, so a lot of people stop and read about it, and then they'll ask us questions and we'll go over it.
It's a box of produce, similar to what you might get with a farm share or CSA. The difference is that these boxes are offered on a pay-as-you-go basis.
The local thing's big for us. We're a local company, and we deal with local breweries and wineries and cideries, and just getting the local products in hands. Keeping the money in Vermont is definitely nice.
This partnership is about as local as it gets. The produce comes from just down the road at Jericho Settlers Farm.
It's a very diverse population that uses convenience stores, so you're going to reach people that you may not reach at like a farmer's market or through your CSA. And so that's what we were curious to see how it would go. So we're always game for trying new things. Every Friday I send the store a list of what's going to be in the share for the next week's pickup, and they advertise it for that week and take the sales, and then they let us know how many boxes have been ordered. On a Thursday, we pack them either Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, and they go right to the store on Friday morning.
It's a pretty easy process. You prepay for the box, we take your information, and then on Friday, you come in once it's delivered, pick up any time on Friday, and swipe your gift card and go.
All right, that was from up in Jericho, Vermont, and just a couple clips from Across the Fence, which is a local Vermont TV show, and they did a program on this. And here's something from a little postseason interview as well that I just wanted to play, if I can actually play
they were so accommodating. I don't know what it was in it for them super friendly and never any trouble and never griping, handling boxes, receiving boxes. You know, it's a busy, hot, crowded place, and sometimes, and they just, it was never a bother to them. It always felt like they were thrilled to do it.
That was from Washington, I believe. Is that correct? I think so. All right, I think if Joey's not here, I wanted to get anyone who's had experience. I see Georgette there. I know you have been really wrestling with this and maybe sold to some local stores up in northern Vermont. And anyone else on the call, if you want to just pitch in, having had experience sort of with local retailers, even if it is a regular retail relationship. And the reason I want to voice some of this stuff is I'm not sure if any of the retailers have joined us, but if they haven't, I'm not surprised. And the reason I say that is because a lot of these folks that run these small retail operations, in my experience, are amazing people, and they are straight out. Lot going on. So, and that's maybe, and this is afternoon time, right? This is the time they probably need to be at their store. So anyway, if there's anyone on the call that wants to unmute themselves, if you're a farmer there, just introduce yourself and share anything about either trying something either a little bit like this or experience selling to like a small retailer.
This is Lisa, and I'll just jump in to say, Georgette, I'm going to unmute you if I can. Let's see, trying to do that, or yeah, there you go. You're unmuted. And also, Georgette did put a question in the chat, which is, do the customers return the boxes, or how does that work? So as long as Hans put you on the spot earlier, that's what happens when we know you, right? Hans can address your question, and if you're willing to share your experiences, feel free.
Okay. Do you want me to just say something about the boxes and then turn it over to you?
Sure.
Yeah, so those wax boxes, $1.65 each or whatever they are, were part of the grant. And they were gifted, if you will, to wherever they would go. Usually the customers would keep them because they're kind of useful. But yeah, you would need to think about the packaging, marketing, returnable boxes. How would you even make that work? There's some issues there, and not unsolvable, but there are issues.
Yeah, I brought that up because I was thinking, well, I could see a lot of problems with returning them because you don't know where they've been and, whatever. But also the cost of a box every time, if you got to do that every week, you'd have a high cost for the boxes.
That's right.
As far as my limited experience selling to a few small retailers, it's hard to walk in there with a cold visit, but sometimes it works. The thing is that I find that a lot of these little small retailers, since we're very small and have a specialty on certain like tomatoes and eggplants and things like that, a narrow specialty of what we can provide them with, they order, but they don't always order consistently every week the same amount, so it's hard to count on them. You call them and you ask them what they want for that week and that's good to have that flex, but to keep yourself going as the producer, it's hard to know, like you feel like you got to have twice as many retailers lined up because, this week this one orders this, and then you've got a lot of that to sell, but that retailer doesn't want it this week, so you got to find another retailer. And that's sort of what I struggle with, and how to get new retailers around when there's a lot of, I think it was mentioned there, a lot of competition from the so-called small farms in Vermont that are like big compared to like our setup. Everything living in Vermont is considered small given the size of the country and the size of other farms, but on a sliding scale, we're at the micro end of the small.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Georgia. And just for folks on the call, you know, this farm is a small farm. It's on a good commuter route, but it's pretty rural. And yeah, I mean, you hit on something. Like, you go into these small stores and generally you do not see a produce section. If you do, it's like a tired head of lettuce sitting there, and they have a deli too. So, and there's a reason for that. And it's not a winning game generally with that really perishable produce. And so that's in some ways an insurmountable problem with that model, the traditional, like, you know, sell and stock model. I mean, it could be, depending on who was coming and what other sources, but the perishability of fresh produce, especially lettuces, leafy greens, is pretty difficult in some rural settings.
Well, I think that I'm still online here,
Hmm.
Hans. I think that the idea that the boxes is a good idea for those places that are like your little convenience stores that don't have a good produce section, as opposed to the little small stores that do have some nice, you know, vegetables and, you know, a good, might be small, but they have, some of the little retailers we sell to, they do have a produce section versus a Jolly type that really doesn't deal in fresh vegetables. So
Yep.
that market of finding the small store that doesn't have anything, it's really a beer stop or gas stop or something like that. I
Yep.
think it's a good target. Plus, I am trying to work on, you know, being on the main road, how to market that in from that strategy.
Yeah, that's right. And the whole commuter route and convenience is really a untapped, really busy folks who are driving and they come back late and they want, you know, salads like that. There's something there that we haven't hit on, and I think it's really worth thinking about that if you live on a route like that. Okay, anyone else before we move on? Any other input, just sort of experience in this realm that anyone wants to share?
Hi, Hans.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Paula Barnes in Orwell.
Hi, Paula.
Hi. We've emailed a lot, but
Yes, I know. I still have to visit you.
Yeah. So I thought this was a great idea for us in the winter months too, because we have, you know, quite a bit in our storage of root crops. So we decided, let's see what we can do with these root crops. So we just call them root crop boxes right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing probably 6 to 7 a week, but it alternates because people feel there's enough food in there for 2 weeks. So, you know, it's not a huge amount, but for just really one person to be doing it, and we're happy with that so far. We plan to continue through the summer months.
Huh, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And you hit on something too, which is this specialty, you know, the marketing thing, like 3 salads in a box, you know, like this idea that you set out this convenience vision, you know, root crop box, you know, something that is really easy and that the customers can form some sort of immediate value around that relates to their life, like bingo. I think that is, again, where there's some wiggle room in this market.
Yeah, they've been really happy with it. Very excited. There's people from surrounding towns coming in, so they're driving a little distance.
Mm-hmm.
But they're very happy with it.
Nice.
And they pre-order and pay when they pick up. They pick up on Saturday, or unless another arrangement is made.
Mm-hmm. So that you just dove into the payment, or like looked into that payment logistics, which are all over the place, and they're with all the online stuff too. There's lots of possibilities. But yeah, the pay when you pick up is a great thing because people can sign up, but you're also then the grower is a little bit liable if they don't show up, and that's could be a problem.
Yeah.
Others? Anyone else? And then we'll move on if there's nothing right now. We're going to get plenty into this. more. So we'll have a chance to discuss issues. So yeah, if you're like thinking about this, right, and wondering, and that's what you should be doing right now, like thinking about your situation, if you're a maybe, or you really want to try something like this, and start thinking about possibilities, people, potential synergies, things that could work, when constraints, limits, all that kind of stuff. So you've got time between words and while other people are talking, let your brain sort of just ruminate on this. Okay, so I think, yeah,
Hans,
what we're gonna,
sorry, I just wanted to mention that Wei suggested that Joey has joined us. I don't know if you want to hear, you want to open that up now or at some other point.
No, I think that's great. If she's here, you could unmute her, or is she on the computer? I don't see. Yeah, I don't see her.
I think I just unmuted her, the 802 number, so.
I'm here.
There you go.
Joey. Hey.
Hi.
Hey, welcome.
Sorry.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
So Joey, you saw a picture of her and her sitting next to her beautiful box a while back. And Joey, did you just jump on, or have you been here for a while?
I did just jump on. It took me a while to get home from work. I apologize.
Oh, no, that's fine. So yeah, thanks for joining, Joey. And not to put you on the spot, but we've been pitching in here. So what you missed was just introducing the food box concept and how we tried it, and the farms, just a slideshow kind of the farms that tried it. And where we're headed is kind of jumping into possibilities, potential. A lot of the folks on the call are farmers or extension people who are working directly with farmers that they know potentially, and our service providers. So you know, what we haven't gotten into as much, well, we saw some direct experience in video form and listened to some feedback on audio clips, but just having some live, like I explained to them that the store you were selling to is super rural, was kind of too far away for you, and just hearing that sort of like, you know, what kind of was good or worked or gave you insight in doing this, and what didn't work, and just a little bit about your experience, you know, trying this box.
Sure, yeah. So a couple things that stick out, and it's been a little while, obviously, since I did it, but for us here at Footbook, being, I don't know if you would call us large scale, but we grow 30 to 45 acres. That's how much we have in production. So the box was really easy to put together. So that part was pretty easy for us because we grow about 130 different varieties of vegetables. I enjoyed putting the boxes together. We usually only had 3 to 5 boxes ordered every week. So it was an extra step to drive it to Waterville from my location, and it was one more thing that I had to add to a list of a lot of things. So that was what kind of deterred us from continuing with it. I also think that for our situation, you almost have to be more rural than where I was. Finding a store that maybe really had a number of rural people, but it wasn't easy for them to drive to the next city to go grocery shopping or find organic food. And I think we can find organic food more easily now, no matter where we go. I think that if I had more resources, more employees, more people to kind of administer it, it probably would have been something I stuck with.
Or if Waterville was like that, your truck was going by it on the way to something else, and you're doing that anyway, that probably would have made it easier, I imagine. Right?
Yes, definitely. Yep. It was an easy thing to pack out the box because I did it on the same day. as our CSA was being put together. The other thing that also happened was people were, because I have a farm stand on our site and I'm on a very busy road, people were switching over to the membership cards where they could just come in and swipe a card. And I wasn't having as many boxes or bags to fill up with produce. But I think had I been able to, like you said, have a route that it was just another place to stop at, and had stuck with it, because like anything, if you continue with something season after season, it's just going to get better.
Hans, you're muted.
You mentioned swipe a card, and that you know, it hints at that there are a lot of possibilities for payment. And I know people didn't swipe a card for a box like this, but that kind of thing is totally in bounds, given online different kinds of sales stuff, different kinds of CSA software, where you know, you could recruit and build relationships over time with sort of common customers, and the store would be their drop and often order point, but to use a card like that. And I know that's not only possible, but the growers are diving into that. I'm wondering if you could say just a tiny bit about what your card is for your farm stand.
Sure. So we partnered with, through my credit card company, we kind of partner with this separate company that basically issues us gift cards. That's the administrative side of it. Every year, and you can find this information on my website if anybody ever wants to just check out how I go about it. And I'm sure Hans, but it's footbrookfarm.com. It's pretty easy. But people go onto my website, and through Square, they can sign up to basically buy into my CSA, which is they can buy a $200 card or a $300 card. And as soon as I open for plant sales in May, they are able to come and use what is really like a gift card that goes right into my credit card machine. But they, by buying, say, a $200 card this time of year, they're able to get $220 worth of credit. So they're basically getting $20 of produce for free. And $300 card gives them $30 worth of produce for free. And they can reload their card at any time. And most of my CSA members have switched over to that process.
That's great. Thank you, Elizabeth. I wanted to point out that we have a question from, I'm sorry, thank you, Joey. We have a question from Elizabeth in the chat box, which is for Joey. And the question is, did you experiment with these pre-order fresh boxes, the farm fresh food boxes, with an option to pick up on-site similar to a CSA?
That's a great question. My CSA is in two different parts. So in one part of my CSA is this preloaded gift card, and the other part of my CSA is what I call the family bag that is already packed full of produce. So I already kind of had that as an option in my CSA. So no, I did not experiment with picking up the boxes here at the farm stand, only because I already had something similar to that. The draw to this program with the food boxes was really bringing those boxes to a rural place where it made it easier for people that were working or coming home from work. That store was open longer. They were able to pick up their boxes at that convenience store.
That's great. Yeah, thanks, Joey. And I have to say, you guys have really done an amazing, I mean, you do a big wholesale operation too, but that farm stand and the options there and the kinds of boxes, you know, you're really kind of thinking outside of the box with your, no pun intended, with your CSA. That's what's happening. You know, that kind of thing I see happening all over Vermont, and I hear about it certainly in California. They've maybe a little ahead of Vermont in terms of busting out of the, you know, traditional CSA model. All right. Anything else at this point? Thank you so much, Joey, for calling in, and feel free to stick around or go or whatever you want. You know, we have tortured Joey plenty with all the research, and you know, no, it hasn't been torture. It was great working with every single farmer on the extension side. It's really great to go into this together, and you know, we're all learning and trying stuff together, and being able to share that is really wonderful. So thanks for your contributions to this project, Joey.
Happy to help anytime. And if you think of anything else cool, pass it on to me. I'll try.
You'll try it. Well, that is actually an important thing, is sort of game to experiment, game to try. That's what it takes to sort of figure out how to increase, you know, the sustainability and resilience of our local food production. You know, we're trying to reestablish more of a balance. That's I think that attitude is really key, and actually it's perfect for what, you know, what we're shifting really into this idea of, okay, well, so if you were going to do something like this, you know, how would you go about doing it, and what does it take to start it? That cold call, like walking into a store, or if you're a service provider, you know, calling up a grower or going into a store and sort of pitching that concept and seeing, you know, what does that take? So this isn't too far-fetched, and we're gonna start with a little role play. So I've actually worked on produce farms a fair bit, so I'm gonna play the farmer. And what I'm going to do is go into a little retail store. I wouldn't normally be wearing this microphone, but this is my farmer hat for the winter. And I'm going to go in and sort of pitch this idea to Lisa, who's a retailer at the store that we drive by on Thursdays when we drop our orders. Oh boy, I look pretty stupid, don't I? So it's good, you can laugh. So we could get out of this slideshow to make our photos bigger, but let's not. So you guys can just pretend and watch Lisa and I, who are the videos. I don't know if you can see us on the screen, but you can imagine. So I'm driving down the road. It's about this time of year, actually, because I'm thinking about my CSA and my local wholesale drops. And I'm stopping in. Lisa runs it's a convenience store. They do have gas stations, but it's kind of small, and you've got a little deli. And I don't really know Lisa, but I did reach out to her. I was put in touch, and I emailed her, and she did get back to me, said, sure, drop in, what would be a good time. And she said Wednesday's pretty good, after lunchtime, like early afternoon, usually is not too busy. So here it is. I get out, and oh, I'm getting into my role right now. Let me focus for a second. Lisa, you're Lisa, right? Is that, yeah?
Yes, can I help you? Would you like to purchase something?
No, we emailed, and my name's Hans. I run Blue Hill Farm down the road a couple miles. You've probably been by it, and I emailed you about wanting to stop in and talk about an idea. Thanks for saying that was okay, and it's still a good time. Do you have a second here?
I've got a second. I've got a lot of customers.
Okay, well, feel free to just interrupt if you've got to help someone, and I really appreciate it. Yeah, I've come by here quite a bit. I run a CSA with boxes. I have about 60 customers. I'm trying to expand it. They pick up at the farm. I have one other pickup, and I'm driving by here on Thursdays. And I would really, if you're into this at all, I'd love to, try with you partnering just to have a drop point and help recruit some of your customers to pick up, buy and pick up boxes here. And I'm thinking that would maybe if it works, it'd be good for you and good for me to have folks come in your store, et cetera. And I'm wondering if you'd be interested in just chatting about that idea, or if that might make sense to you.
We can talk about it. I've tried fresh produce occasionally here and there, but people just don't really come here for those items. And, when they go bad, I'm left out. So I'm hesitant.
Left holding the bag. Yeah. Yeah, I seen, was it like a couple years ago? I remember coming in here and seeing some produce back in the cooler. And why, so you did that. Why did you do it? You were trying to have a produce section, or what was your goal there?
Yes, I like the idea of having a produce section, and occasionally, very occasionally, someone's looking for something. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the farmers nearby. I want to support them, but when I did it last time, we just didn't get enough traffic to buy enough of the fresh produce. It doesn't last long, and then I've got this rotting produce that I'm stuck with.
Yeah, totally. I get that. It makes sense. And maybe we could actually work something out, because here's what I'm thinking. I've really wanted to, I like selling to CSA customers, but I'll tell you, the folks that come in this store, I really want to try to reach and offer them some good fresh food from our farm. So what if you had no risk involved in terms of that? Like, in other words, there would be no stock to lose. And, the idea of doing this really would be, we do some marketing and we can figure out the logistics, but the box would be, customers would order it potentially somehow when they come in the store, and you just shoot me an email how many were ordered in the week. I can shoot you what's in the box, and we can advertise it, and we can talk about the payment stuff, either prepay or pay when they come pick up, and then I drop the boxes. So it'd just be a point, and the customers would come back to get the boxes. And the prepay works great for them coming back, so that's a good way to do it, if we could work it out. And the boxes be in your store for a couple hours, but you get that traffic potentially if they know they come for the box, they pick up some pasta or something at the same time, and maybe that could work. Just to try it, I'm thinking, if we went out, tried it for a season or two, and see if we could make that work, or make it work for both of us, that might be a real good relationship. And you could have a big sign out in front of your store that you're offering, fresh local produce. And I don't know if that's sounds like something you might want to have. So yeah, what do you think about that concept, or exploring that more?
Well, I like the idea. Certainly the no risk on my part is appealing, but it will take some of my time to deal with customers. I mean, hopefully they're my customers and are buying other things, but it's an added transaction to have these cards, and deal with the prepay, and keep the produce fresh here while it's here. So what's in it for me? Other than being good to the farmers, which I like that idea, but what else is in it for me?
Okay, cut. So thank you, Lisa. That was completely unrehearsed. My head's getting hot.
Oh, wait, I have one more question.
Yeah.
Where did you get that hat? I love it.
The local Sam's sports department store, if you have to know. Okay, so what's in it for me? Common ground. Like what do you each want? And that's a really key part of this whole thing. And I just want to point that out, because and the retailer, they're not going to get their 40% markup. That's not what this is about, and there's a reason, right? There's not going to be the same kind of risk, the same kind of stocking, all that kind of stuff, obviously. But they may, especially if they do the payment logistics, are going to want some kind of a cut, and it may be more in the 10 to 15% or something like that, but you'd have to negotiate that. If they don't do anything and it's just a drop point, and you do all the marketing, you do everything else, then it's different. But thinking about that, and the compensation, but also the common ground. let's just hear one thing about that, I think, about the goals. I really want to focus in on the goals because that's what we're going to do in this upcoming exercise. So let me click on this here. That looks good.
The local thing's big for us. You know, we're a local company and we deal with local breweries and wineries and cideries, and you know, just getting the local products in hands, keeping the money in Vermont is definitely nice.
So we heard that last time. I just replayed that particular pitch because you just heard a goal right there. And Mike isn't, he's just a manager, but I'll tell you, the guy who started this chain of companies like talks so passionately about that goal. Like you would not believe. Okay, let's hear Krista's this different clip.
That's the whole reason I started farming. I was looking to not only grow the food for myself in a way that I felt good about, but be able to provide that to the community as well.
Okay. Provide that to the community. And if most people are living in communities that have a whole range of people, and a lot of them, as we know, are not going to be getting a CSA box. They're not going to go to a farmer's market. And how do you reach them? So finding that, really thinking carefully, trying new stuff. We got to keep trying because there's a way into this and the culture is kind of against it. And the price points are against it at this, or potentially they're against it, but they don't have to be. Okay. Questions or thoughts about this? We're going to jump into an exercise about this sort of goal setting and we'll use the text box we'll jump into that, but I want to pause here for a minute just to see if there are any questions.
No questions in the chat box at this time. And as a time check, I want to let you know we have 30 minutes left.
It's perfect. Okay. So let's just do a quick experiment. So this is actually a participation exercise, but really difficult to do with as many people and people interrupting each other. So we're going to mostly use the chat box, but then we will have some discussion. I especially want the people at the end of this who are really serious about trying this to speak up and we can hear some of that stuff. So, but let's, so the chat box, I just want to see how many people can do this. So just, I'm give you 30 seconds to write your favorite or one of your favorite flavors of ice cream in the chat box. And if you don't like ice cream, you can just get off the call right now. That's a joke. You're allowed to not like ice cream. I'm seeing chats come in here. So, chocolate, peanut butter, huckleberry, ooh, huckleberry, mint chocolate chip, mini muds, cherry Garcia, chocolate, brownie batter, what the, coffee, oh yeah, my favorite, vanilla. Okay, good. So we have some people can use the chat, that's good. All right, so let's keep doing this. Not your favorite flavor of ice cream, but why don't you tap, just text into the chat box. So let's assume that maybe, or even pretend that you do want to try, but a lot of you actually do want to try maybe an F3B or something based on this model, that expansion. So don't block yourself in by that F3B concept as it is presented. Why would you want to do it? What's an overarching goal if you're a retailer or a farmer? I'm watching the chats come in and take your time. Just try to get it out there. We'll just take about a minute here of silence while people are writing. Okay, this is great. If you still got one coming in, or that's fine, you can keep going. But we'll. So I'm thinking everyone can see the chat box. So if you go up on that Zoom thing under more, or maybe Lisa, you can tell people, and there's a chat. I'm looking at a little chat thing box that opens up. Is that right, Lisa, or is there something else that you can see from your end?
Just that little chat box.
Yep. Okay, so some of it, you've seen some of this stuff, and I just, as you're scanning through it, it's really interesting. So we don't have I don't think we have retailers here. Maybe we do. That would be great if we do. But I want to point out one observation, which is that I think you could group the responses into sort of more an ideological camp and then more a practical camp. And what I mean by that is I want to reach parts of markets that I want to get more customers healthy, sustainable food. Okay, that's ideological, and it's important, obviously. Whereas let's see, what did I see? Sorry, Paula wrote what she was saying about, oh, I'm up in the ice cream flavors. There we go. Increased sales in winter months, as well as the regular, bring food in, as well as the regular season, that kind of thing. So I point that out because the both of those things are actually important. I really want that, that, in other words, I think they have to go together like two wings of a bird eventually, or the bird's going to crash at some point with one wing pretty soon after launch. In other words, I think there has to be some heart in it, and both from the retailer and the grower. And there has to be pragmatism and practical sort of, and something about it becoming sustainable, or it won't last very long. And that's not something you're going to know necessarily from the start, right? So as anyone who started a new market, almost for sure, when you start it up, you're gonna invest to have something, because I can guarantee, and other people might want to speak up, but culturally, consumers are not ready to walk into a convenience store, look at a list of vegetables and lay down 20, 30 bucks to get a box. It's just not part of what they would do. The idea of a vegetable costs $3 to $5, right? That's the price point, maybe 2 to 5. And they're not going to be, they don't see the value of something like that without laying eyes on it or without fitting it. Like, that's just not what, and I wouldn't say it's not, it's just like that's what we're going to run into in the mainstream culture in different states. And that's changing, but it's important to keep working at it and figure out how to build value, build loyalty, build commitment, and build a way for customers to understand the value of that. But there's heart in there. This is what's really good about bringing more healthy food and sustainable food to people in my community. That kind of comment is that is common ground often with the retailer. Might be why they got into the business, or it might be part of it. Any thoughts or comments? Anyone want to unmute and say anything about this? And we'll move on in a minute.
Yeah, Hans. So it's Paula again. We did a little survey with our customers on our business page. And then we put together a box and took a picture of it and put it out there to see what the response was, and went from there.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And you got response.
We did. Yep.
Did you, how did they know what they were getting? Or they just try it based on the responses and then they come back for more? Or?
No, we told them what was in the box, a list of what was in the box, and we took a picture of the items around the box. so they could visually see it, but they could also see the list of what was going to be in the box. And they also had some choices as well.
Yep. I
Not
think
everybody likes squash.
yeah. I mean, it's really, what's really important too is if you want to do something like this, you'd say, okay, well, what is it worth to me to stop at this store? Like, how many boxes would you need to sell? Or for a retailer, you know, the same question, but on the other end, like, and then work to do some recruitment up front to get that kind of commitment. And that's just a thought. I mean, we didn't do that. Well, we did it some. But, you know, we never tried stuff like, you know, you get a nice labeled bag, little bag of salad, a half a pound or something like that, or a small sample, and you put them in the cooler, you know, with a nice label and a card, you know, like take this and put your name down if you're interested in getting more. And it's like a free sample. Put out a limited number, and then you get a contact list of people interested, and then you get in communication with them. And yeah, maybe you have, like Joey has done, you get a 10% discount if you're up over a certain pre-commitment of some kind, and figure out some way to do that. And then you are in a position where you could start and make it sort of start with a little bit of momentum.
Okay.
Other thoughts? Julia, you want to say anything about this? You were really good at making those connections.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in. So this is Julia. I'm an extension agent in California and helped implement farm fresh food boxes in rural Mendocino County, California. And I wanted to underscore Hans's point in terms of where the goals or values of the farmer and the retailer aligned, which was really that they're both in business to be active members and supporters of their community. And so they those really aligned in terms of farmers wanting to feed their community and wanting to keep their fresh produce local as opposed to sending it out to the bigger city far away. And then the retailers are super loyal to their customers, who they really know first name basis and who they maybe have been seeing every day or every week for years, and really are the physical center of the community. And so that service to the community, I think, was really common ground at each of the locations that I worked with.
That's great. Thank you, Julia. Julia had helped with some amazing marketing stuff. Really did a wonderful job. That heart connection, common ground, service stuff, the more of that kind of goal is really an essential starting point. And I think that actually in some ways needs to be up front, but they both, it all has to be there. I see a comment from Jane Kolodinsky, who is the PI project researcher, and maybe it says I would say never do a BOGO or half price. I believe that sets up unrealistic expectations for price by the customer. Can you, Jane, would you mind unmuting and just explaining that a little bit? I think I know what you mean, but
Sure. So I can remember a startup, and it wasn't a fresh produce box, but it was a startup where a retailer decided to price this at half price at the opening. And the customer base, when the price actually went to the price it should be, the customer base was unwilling because they were sort of primed by this unrealistic sale price. So, you know, while offering a discount for, you know, volume, as we heard from one of our participants, is really good. Be careful, because something we've learned in 2 projects, this being one of them, about CSA-like direct-to-consumer innovations, is that many of the customers that we're trying to reach, which are customers that have been unwilling or unable to access the local food and fresh vegetable market, do not have the means for which to pay, and they perceive it, for whatever reason, that it's out of their reach. So I guess I would say we can't perpetuate that this is cheap and a farmer can't meet their costs, or
right,
shouldn't meet their costs. That's what my comment was about.
That makes sense. that is different, right, than say putting out a small free sample with you know, for that you can take for signing up to be on a mailing list or something.
Oh,
Right.
samples are proven winners. Samples are proven winners. It's a low cost. People don't expect that that's the price, but they get to try it, and they get to try it for free. They don't basically get it for an unrealistic price. So, oh yeah, it's also been proven that taste tests work. We've actually tried that one in farm to school lunches, and it's shown to be very effective taste testing.
And I think our experience also would show that for like a $20, $30, $40 box or whatever you had in mind, or it's a barrier. Potentially the price point, given that you can't see what you're getting, you only see a list or something, is going to be a barrier for customers in a small store like that. And you've got to break through it somehow. They have to understand the value. Just put it up there, put up some sort of poster and say sign up is going to be hard without to do it cold. And that was my experience. I think the experience of the farms as well. But doesn't mean give up. Okay, text box. So if you're here, there are many growers out there. Maybe you have a truck on the road. Maybe you're going somewhere. Just try to text some things here. Type in the box any list of words, you know, or clauses that are constraints for you. Timing of delivery, the kind of box you could potentially do or pack, the kind of flexibility with delivery time, your season, anything like that. And expectations might be, you know, that it would have to make money from the start. You know, that you are just, you know, open and don't have expectations, you know, anything that would have to happen, basically. So go ahead and start typing. If you're an extension or service provider, feel free to just use your imagination based on your clientele. And we'll give about a minute or so. We have 15 minutes left. I think we're doing okay. A couple more questions, and that really is going to bring us to a little wrap-up discussion. Let's take about just a minute here. Okay, some good chats, texts are coming in. Takes a little longer. This is more around like, one person said, can you restate the question? When you think about doing this, what comes up for you as limits? What comes up as constraints? It could be transportation, it could be the kind of box you could pack, anything. Finding a good partner, cost of boxes, time needed to advertise, finding right combination of produce that will sell in the community, finding area CSA and delivery needs. If we do a farmer's food box, finding a good partner, cost of boxes, time needed to advertise, list weekly availability. How do you do it? Rural Kansas, commodity crops, focus, not always enough growers to meet demand. Need to build capacity, maximize grower to consumer link. Do the retailers take a cut for the box? They should if they're doing something some kind of, depending on what they're doing, I think that it's important to have it feel equitable. But it's not going to match their normal markup, you know, since you're owning the product. Okay, it's really interesting. Like, this is where it gets really interesting. And here this is, your community, and there's so much to know. The more you look, there is no perfect solution, right? It's gonna be finding a good partner, getting to know who's out there, trying to figure out what their needs are, and figuring out a way to do this. And the beauty of this whole thing is that if you can get this right, you're actually building connection in the community just by trying it. And that's really part of what local food can offer that Walmart can never touch. Is that journey, if you will, to reconnect people with the resources it takes to, you know, nourish them and know where it comes from. Okay, finding a good partner. Yeah. Okay, so a lot of good stuff there. I hope you're reading it. Why is this important? Because when you walk in and start thinking about your potential partner, this is going to come up right away. And it's really important to have thought through some of this stuff and think about, and not use it to sort of smash the project before you even get it off the ground, but to think, you know, think of it more like as an interesting problem to solve and nut to crack, and focus on those heart goals, because and know upfront that it's not going to take off instantly, almost for sure. I mean, maybe that's not true. Maybe in Kansas it will. I don't know. I mean, I don't actually know. Around here, it's hard in Vermont, when I say that, to have something like this work instantly at a convenience store. It's going to take work. And so the goals need to lead, but you got to make the constraints fit. And that is, that's the key here. So it's this interesting, we're getting to the assignment, which is a very interesting assignment. And let's see if I can, why? Oh, there it goes. Let's go back. Okay, so yeah, lists. So the assignment really is, you're gonna try to find a partner. Like, if you're serious about this, or even a maybe, you know, take time before the next short course meeting, and reach out. And you know, we have in a minute, we'll look at some resources in the toolkit that you can use, just checklists and stuff like that. So let's just take a little bit more time. And again, this can continue offline here, but list a few potential partners if you want to in the chat box. That's not as important because we don't really know, but you know, maybe one or two. And then this is the key thing. Can you think of where what's the potential synergy with the partner? Where is their common ground? What's the goal? And you're not going to describe this in detail, but what do you think like, is it around serving the community? That would be a potential synergy. Is it around, you know, reaching a different kind of market? Is it around connecting, making more connection in the community? I don't know. Around making money. So just take a minute with that. And this is something really for you to do on your own with a potential partner. But let's get a few things out here. General store type place in each town where we currently deliver CSAs. Oops. 10 minutes left. Okay. Yeah, we only have 10 minutes left. I'm time check, so we'll cut this one short and just move on. You guys have been awesome. There's some really great stuff in this chat. And I think we'll end up saving these, obviously. And farm stand, center of our town that doesn't offer produce. Bingo, that's a good one. Okay, so you guys are starting to think about this, and I might cut this short because there isn't as much to discuss here. But that's the assignment right there. I mean, really, is to think about what. Let me go back to this. I guess the assignment is coming in a few slides, but if you don't mind, I'm just going to blast through to the assignment to look at it, and then we can potentially come out back for this. I don't know, maybe it's not there. Thought I had that in there. Okay, so, oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, the assignment really is here. It's to take your list of goals, and then reach out to a potential partner, one or more, and pitch the idea to them. And maybe right at the end, I'll just show you the toolkit that we're going to send you with the actual PDFs, which are like those prompts that would help you do that. Okay, so I'm going to move on from there. And can someone help me out? Because I think I'm done with what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And and we're moving on, given the time, to finishing up maybe with a couple more voices or discussion, and then touching base about next time. So I'm signing off in a way, but or turning it over to, I guess, you, or Wei, I think, is picking up.
Yeah, I mean, I can just quickly speak to the benefits and the challenges that the farmers and retailers face. So some of the benefits were greater exposure to the community. A lot of the farmers spoke about how they had more reach to the community, especially those customers that had not participated in CSA and farmers markets in the past. And also kind of recapturing some of those people who had been part of the CSA but decided for either financial or logistical reasons they weren't able to continue. And Hans, if you wouldn't mind clicking on the California retailer and farmer audio clips.
Retailer. Okay, and we've before I there was one question I just really quickly. What's
sure.
F3B? Just a concept. Who's promoting it? It's part of UVM. Any cost to grower? There's no cost to it. It was a national. We won't go into it, but a 2 to 3 year research project that was an extension, on the ground, working with farmers, testing the concept. And we have some research. We have a website, and you'll see that. You can go look at that. We're sharing lessons learned for people to scratch their head, think about using the concept or the model or using parts of it. And that's really why we're doing this right now, is to put the word out. Okay, California retailer.
It was kind of fun. It was mostly a little bit of extra work, but it was interesting to see just sort of how close the demand was there. I mean, people, there certainly were pretty much everybody who came for the food box was somebody that had been aware of that CSA before, or even members in prior years, as some of them had been. And it was just sort of the amount of food and the overwhelming sort of having to make a commitment to a season that scared almost all of them off. And so it was interesting what a sense of relief people had and saying, oh, this is so good. I can just do this weeks when I want it. So it was interesting to see sort of what a potentially low barrier there is to getting more people involved. But there's I'm probably jumping ahead here. There were sort of two big barriers. One was sort of lowering the threshold, which people really appreciated, and two was making them aware of it and keeping them aware of it. As you'll probably see in the numbers, I mean, we had a newspaper article and mailings that went out the same week, and so there was this huge jump in people doing it, and then it took about 3 or 4 weeks for almost all of them to just forget about it again. So it, it tailed off pretty radically there. So the other interesting observation was just sort of the almost impossibility of small things without huge advertising budgets remaining in people's minds long enough for them to develop a pattern.
And I think actually, Hans, instead of going with the next quote, because we are running out of time and I do want to leave time for the last evaluation, and we'll make this PowerPoint available in the Google folder that I sent the link out to. But basically, he really captured the benefits and the challenges, including new methods for marketing, especially working with extension, and then working with that partnership that Hans really captured before. It's really important to have that, like a partner who really understands who you are as a farm and is able to convey that. And there are some potentials for ancillary sales for farmers. One farmer did sell spinach and some additional berries as a result. Quickly moving to the challenges, the next slide. Something that people can take a look at later on their own is, these challenges. There is extra work. I mean, it's a new market channel, so especially in the first year, there are going to be some things that you'll need to do in order to get it going. So, for example, and to get used to it. So, for example, especially with farmers, there was less interaction with consumers, which was very difficult for CSA and farmers market farms. There's also extra work. If you don't already pack, there's the extra packing, making sure to pick up payments. So making sure that you have a lot of communication with your retailer. And so those are some of the challenges. And we do have one last poll. So Hans, I think I'll end my part there, but just make sure that you have these dates at hand. It's actually March 5th. I apologize, that's a typo. But I will make sure to remind everyone. There will be reminders before and links sent out before. But just quickly getting to this next flash survey about today's experience. I'm going to launch that right now. And if you could just take a moment and reflect on your experience with this short course today, and this will really help guide us as a team on how you feel about this, and give us a sense of how we can help you. So if you take a moment for that.
And we should mention that we're actually not going to publish these results. These are just internal. So if you wouldn't mind filling it out, and that will help guide us on where to go next. And we actually can't tell who's putting in which answers, and we're not going to share these with anyone else. So, feel free to be completely honest and upfront here. If you have additional comments that you'd like to share, what was helpful, what was not, what you're really hoping we'll cover in future sessions of this short course, please type it into the chat box now, or you can email. All of you have been getting these very helpful reminders from Weiwei. Feel free to email Weiwei directly or any of us and share your feedback.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. Yep.
And you can see what we're getting into February 20th, and then the March meeting. It really is the nitty-gritty logistics, lessons learned, and some action templates for that. And then marketing and troubleshooting is really the last one. So hopefully, if you're serious about this, you actually have a partner in mind by the next time, and are really working with them by early March. I did want to just escape out of this PowerPoint and show the homework that you're getting, or that will come to you. Do I have time to do that? It's just that template. the sheet with the list. I don't know, but I'm going to do it and see what happens.
Go ahead. And while Hans pulls that up, there was a question about the time. So February 20th and March 5th, same time as today, 2:30 Eastern time.
Thanks. There we go. Okay, so you are getting, let me switch to this. So I don't know if you can see this on my screen, but you know, this is basically a PDF that can be printed out that's coming to you, and it has this intro, and then here are the things. So what, you know, what are those goals? What are the constraints? List potential partners, and then really here's just a checklist. Excuse me, a checklist to bring to a potential meeting, just to sort of start with what you got. Okay, and I'm just going to jump right back to this, and we'll end from current slide. Okay. Wait, you want to just end things off here? Is that...
Yeah, sure. And I've closed the polls. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. We just want to acknowledge that this project has been supported by the USDA through their Innovation for Rural Entrepreneurs and Communities project. And again, thanks to all of you from UVM, the Evergreen College, and UC Systems, and WSU out in Washington. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on February 20th.
I'll keep this up if you want to reach out to any of us for support in either any of the states or closest state. I'm happy to take people in Kansas. All right. With that, given that we're out of time, 3 minutes over, and you guys got to get on to your busy lives, and it's a beautiful day out there. And thank you all for coming, and I'm going to hang right up and see you next time.